All right, welcome to the deep dive. You guys sent us a really interesting collection this time. It seems like everyone's feeling tired, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a common theme these days.
And we're going to try to go a little deeper today. We've got some great sources, like Better Up, Crescent, places like that. But we want to figure out what's going on beyond just not getting enough sleep.
Mm.
What are those other reasons we feel so drained?
Yeah, because, we all know we need sleep, but it's like even when you think you're getting enough, you're still dragging.
Exactly. So let's unpack this whole fatigue thing, because if you're like most people, you're not just looking for more hours in bed. You want to
Mhm.
figure out why you feel this way and, more importantly, how to actually feel energized again.
Right, and the sources really highlight the different ways we even talk about feeling tired. Like, there's a difference between being sleepy and actually being fatigued.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, Dr. Jenna Gress-Smith from Crescent, she kind of breaks it down. Like sleepiness, that's that physiological need to sleep. Your eyelids are getting heavy, you're yawning.
Like your body's just saying, okay, time to shut down.
Exactly. And that's driven by the buildup of adenosine in the brain. And then there's just being tired, like after a workout or a long day.
Right? That just general feeling of, I've had enough for today.
But fatigue, that's the real tricky one. It's that persistent lack of energy, focus, motivation.
Yeah.
It just kind of lingers, even if you think you're sleeping enough.
So that's what we're really digging into today. It's not just about sleep. We're going deeper. And one of the things that stood out to me right away was the connection between what we eat and how we feel, especially processed foods.
Yeah, the Levels Health piece was really eye-opening on that. It's pretty crazy how much processed food is in most people's diets these
It's
days.
so convenient though, right?
It is, but it's loaded with sugar, salt, unhealthy fats, all those artificial ingredients and additives.
Yeah, you read some of those labels and it's like a chemistry experiment, not food.
And the problem is all those things can really mess with our systems. Like they disrupt our gut microbiome, all those trillions of bacteria in our gut that are supposed to be helping us out.
Right, we hear so much about gut health these days.
And it's so important. But processed foods basically throw it out of whack, and that can lead to all sorts of problems, including fatigue. Plus, because they're often low in fiber, you get these blood sugar spikes and crashes.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling. It's like you get
Oh,
that quick burst of energy and then you crash hard a couple of hours later.
exactly. And then on top of that, Dr. Sohei Bintiaz, he was talking about how these diets can lead to nutritional deficiencies.
Like we're just not getting the nutrients we need.
Right. He specifically mentioned things like iron, B12, folate, vitamin D, all essential for energy production.
Vitamin D especially, right? We know that's a big one, especially for people who live in places where they don't get a lot of sun.
Yeah. He said it's super common, especially in colder climates.
Interesting. So what's the answer then? If someone's thinking, okay, maybe my diet is contributing to this fatigue, where do they even begin?
It sounds simple, but the key is really focusing on whole, unprocessed foods, like lots of vegetables, lean protein, fruit, whole grains,
Real food.
real food, things your grandmother would recognize.
I like that.
And of course, if you're concerned about vitamin D, talk to your doctor about whether a supplement might be right for you.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got to fuel our bodies right. Now, what about inflammation? I know we usually think about inflammation when we have an injury or something, but it sounds like there's a more chronic, low-grade kind that can also drain us.
Exactly. Acute inflammation. That's your body's natural response to like a cut or an infection. It's a good thing. It's helping you heal.
Right.
But chronic inflammation is different. It's this ongoing low-level inflammation that can be triggered by things like smoking, obesity, stress, even too much alcohol.
Wow, so things that a lot of us are dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's pretty common. And Dr. Gress was saying that chronic inflammation has been linked to all sorts of health problems like autoimmune diseases, cancer, type 2 diabetes, but also fatigue.
So even if you're not feeling sick in the traditional sense, this kind of inflammation can just be silently wearing you down.
Exactly. And it's not totally clear how it works, but oxidative stress might be a factor. That's basically when you have an imbalance of free radicals and antioxidants in your body.
Okay, I've heard of antioxidants, but remind me about free radicals again.
So free radicals, they're these unstable molecules that can damage your cells. and that damage can contribute to inflammation and fatigue. Antioxidants help to neutralize them, but if you have too many free radicals and not enough
You
antioxidants,
get that oxidative stress.
exactly. And Dr. Gress also mentioned some other signs that you might have chronic inflammation, like digestive issues, joint pain, swollen lymph nodes, even skin rashes.
Interesting. So it's not always obvious.
No, it can be pretty subtle.
So what can people do if they think they might be dealing with this chronic inflammation?
Well, a lot of the same things we talked about with diet. An anti-inflammatory diet is key. So lots of fruits and vegetables, healthy fats like omega-3s from fatty fish.
And managing stress, right?
Absolutely. Stress is a huge contributor to inflammation. So things like meditation, journaling, yoga, getting enough sleep, all those things can help.
Okay, so starting to see a theme here. It's all connected.
It really is. Now, another big piece of the puzzle, and this one seems so basic, is hydration.
Drinking enough water.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people are chronically dehydrated and don't even realize it.
I know I'm guilty of that sometimes.
And even mild dehydration can make you feel so tired. Like the Better Up article was talking about how water is essential for basically every bodily function. Like it helps regulate your temperature, lubricate your joints, transport nutrients.
So if you're dehydrated, your body has to work harder just to do its basic functions.
Exactly. And that takes energy. Plus, when you're dehydrated, your blood volume actually decreases.
So your heart has to work harder to pump blood.
Exactly. It's less efficient, so you're not getting enough oxygen and nutrients to your cells, which can make you feel fatigued. It's actually pretty similar to how you feel when you're sleep deprived.
Wow, never thought about it like that.
Hmm.
And it's not just about feeling tired during the day either, right? Dehydration can mess with your sleep too.
Yeah, there's a growing body of research that suggests dehydration can disrupt your circadian rhythm. You know, your internal clock that tells you when to sleep and wake up.
So you're tired during the day and then you can't sleep at night. It's a vicious cycle.
Exactly. So how much water should we be drinking?
Yeah. What's the magic number?
The National Academy of Medicine recommends about 13 cups a day for men and 9 for women.
Wow, that's more than I thought.
Yeah, and that's just a general guideline. You might need more if you're active, live in a hot climate, or even if you're taking certain medications.
Good point. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about mental health, because that was another big theme that came up, specifically depression and anxiety.
Yeah, those are both so important to address because they can absolutely contribute to fatigue.
But Dr. Gress made it clear that just because you're tired, it doesn't mean you're depressed.
Right. Depression is a complex condition with a lot of different factors involved, but fatigue is definitely a common symptom.
And the sources were saying it's tied to changes in brain chemistry, specifically neurotransmitters like dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin.
Yeah. Those neurotransmitters play a role in everything from mood to energy levels, sleep, motivation, even how we experience pleasure.
So when someone's depressed, that fatigue can be really profound. It's not just feeling a little bit tired.
Right, and it's often coupled with a lack of motivation, loss of interest in things you used to enjoy. It can really take over your life.
And what's really tough is it can create a vicious cycle, right?
Huh.
You're tired so you don't do as much, which can make you feel even more depressed and withdrawn.
Exactly. So it's so important to seek professional help if you're experiencing these feelings, especially if you're having thoughts of self-harm or suicide.
Absolutely, that's a critical warning sign. Now, what about anxiety? How does that tie into fatigue?
Well, anxiety basically puts your body on high alert. You know, it triggers that fight or flight response.
Even if there's no real danger, your body thinks there is.
Right. So you get all these physical symptoms like a racing heart, sweating, muscle tension. Even if you're not in any physical danger, your body's going through this huge stress response. And that can be exhausting.
It's like your body's been running a marathon, even if you've just been sitting at your desk worrying.
Exactly. And then on top of that, anxiety can disrupt your sleep, which we know contributes to fatigue.
Yeah, it's hard to relax and fall asleep when you're constantly worried.
So again, if you're struggling with anxiety, talk to your doctor. There are a lot of effective treatments available. Now, another thing that people might not realize can contribute to fatigue is medication.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Dr. Imtiaz brought this up. He said a lot of commonly prescribed medications can actually have fatigue as a side effect.
Like what kinds of medications?
Some antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, painkillers, even ADHD medications.
Wow, I didn't realize it was so common.
It is, and it can happen for different reasons. Some medications directly cause drowsiness, while others might interfere with sleep quality.
So what should you do if you think your medication might be making you tired?
Definitely talk to your doctor. They might be able to adjust your dosage or switch you to a different medication that doesn't have that side effect.
Good advice. Okay, now let's talk about exercise. I know we always hear that exercise gives you energy, but it sounds like there's a fine line between not enough and too much.
Definitely. When you're not active enough, your body gets deconditioned, so even simple things can feel tiring.
Like climbing a flight of stairs suddenly feels like a workout.
Right. But regular exercise helps to increase blood flow, improve circulation, and it also releases endorphins, which give you that feel-good boost.
Plus, if you're exercising outside, you're getting that vitamin D.
Exactly. And it helps you sleep better, which we know is crucial for combating fatigue. But on the flip side, overtraining can actually make you feel more tired.
Yeah, I've definitely been there.
It puts too much stress on your body, so you end up feeling exhausted and sore.
And it increases your risk of injury, which can really set you back.
So it's important to listen to your body and incorporate rest days into your routine.
So what's a good rule of thumb for recovery time?
It depends on the intensity and type of exercise. Like, after a really intense workout, you might need a full day of rest. But for moderate activity, you might be able to recover quicker. The key is to pay attention to how your body feels.
Makes sense. Okay, now let's talk about some specific medical conditions that can cause fatigue. And thyroid disease was one that kept popping up.
Yeah, the thyroid gland plays a big role in your metabolism, which is how your body uses energy.
Right.
And both an overactive thyroid, called hyperthyroidism, and an underactive thyroid, called hypothyroidism, can lead to fatigue.
So it can go both ways.
Yeah. And the symptoms can be pretty different depending on which one you have. Like with hyperthyroidism, you might experience a rapid heartbeat, weight loss, nervousness. And with hypothyroidism, you might have weight gain, feel cold all the time.
And both can cause fatigue.
Exactly. And the sources were saying that thyroid disorders are pretty common, especially in women. So if you're experiencing those kinds of symptoms, it's definitely worth getting your thyroid checked.
Good to know. Now, what about type 2 diabetes? That was another condition that was mentioned.
Yeah, Dr. Imtiaz talked about that one. Basically, with type 2 diabetes, your body doesn't process sugar properly, so your blood sugar levels get too high.
Right.
And that can lead to fatigue because your body isn't able to use glucose for energy as efficiently.
Makes sense. If your body's not fueled properly, it's going to affect your energy levels.
Exactly. Now, one more thing that was mentioned specifically for men is low testosterone.
Oh,
Yeah. Apparently, it's pretty common in men as they get older, especially after 45. And low testosterone can lead to fatigue as well as mood changes, problems with sexual function, and weight gain.
so if a guy is feeling tired and noticing those other symptoms, it might be worth getting his testosterone levels checked.
Exactly. Now, there was also a brief mention of constipation and how it can be related to fatigue.
Really? I wouldn't have thought of that.
It might seem strange, but they often go together.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. When you're constipated, your body's not eliminating waste properly, and that can make you feel sluggish and tired.
Like your whole system is backed up.
Exactly. And there are a lot of things that can contribute to constipation, like dehydration, a low-fiber diet, medications, even stress.
So it's another one of those things that can be a symptom of something else going on.
Exactly. If it's a recurring issue, it's definitely worth talking to your doctor.
Okay, now let's talk about one last thing that I think a lot of people can relate to. Caffeine.
Oh yeah, that afternoon coffee pick-me-up. Exactly. But the problem is, while caffeine can give you a temporary boost, it can actually backfire in the long run.
How so?
Well, first of all, you can develop a tolerance to caffeine, so you need more and more to get the same effect.
So you end up in this cycle of needing more and more coffee just to function.
Right. And then there's the fact that caffeine is a diuretic, meaning it makes you pee more.
Yeah.
So if you're drinking a lot of caffeine, you can actually get dehydrated, which we know contributes to fatigue.
Ah, so it's counterproductive.
Exactly. And then there's the way caffeine works in the brain. It blocks adenosine, which is the neurotransmitter that makes you feel sleepy.
So you're basically tricking your brain into thinking you're not tired.
Right. But your body's still producing adenosine, so when the caffeine wears off, all that adenosine hits you at once.
And you crash hard.
Exactly.
Right.
That's why moderation is key with caffeine. Dr. Gress recommends no more than 400 milligrams a day and avoiding it altogether for at least 8 hours before bed.
Good advice. And let's not forget that a lot of caffeinated drinks are loaded with sugar, which we already talked about as a problem.
Yeah, that sugar crash can make you feel even worse.
So the bottom line is there are a lot of different reasons why you might be feeling tired. It's rarely just one thing. It's usually a combination of factors.
Exactly. It's about looking at the whole picture.
Mm.
Your diet, your hydration, your stress levels, your sleep habits, any underlying medical
And
condition.
your mental health.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
Well, this has been really eye-opening. It's easy to just think, oh, I'm tired, I need more sleep. But it's obviously much more complicated than that.
It is. But the good news is there are things you can do to improve your energy levels.
So as you're listening to this, think about which of these areas might be contributing to your fatigue. Is it your diet? Your stress levels? Are you drinking enough water?
Use this as a starting point to make some changes in your life. Even small changes can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And on that note,
Yeah.
what one small change could you make this week to try to boost your energy? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.